So what happens when a celebrated Pulitzer-winning book is also seen as a story with a huge piece missing? That's the really complex question we're diving into today with Hisham Mattar's incredible memoir, The Return. I mean, you can just feel the power of this book when you hear what other writers have to say about it. Take this quote from Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She says, "It moved me to tears and taught me about love and home." Wow, that really gets to the emotional heart of it, doesn't it? A story about family, loss, and what it truly means to have a home. All right, so let's start with the book itself. The Return isn't just a book, it's really a landmark piece of literature. It weaves together a son's deeply personal quest for truth with a look at his country's incredibly turbulent history. At its core, this is basically a detective story. Mattar's father, Jabala, was a prominent critic of the Gaddafi regime who was kidnapped back in 1990. For over 20 years, his fate was a complete mystery. The book is all about Mattar's journey back to a newly liberated Libya to finally find some answers. And believe me, the world took notice. This wasn't just another memoir. It was a massive literary event, sweeping up a stunning list of awards, including the Pulitzer Prize. Critics, award committees, everyone recognized it as just an extraordinary achievement. But if you look behind all those awards, what you find is this deeply, deeply personal history. It's a story that's really defined by absence and by this relentless, decades-long hope for some kind of closure. This timeline really puts the huge scale of this search into perspective. It all kicks off in 1990 with his father's abduction. Then, just years of silence. It's punctuated only by these horrific events, like the 1996 Abu Salim prison massacre, where many believe Jabala Mattar was killed along with 1,200 other prisoners. It's just staggering. And it wasn't until the fall of Gaddafi in 2011 that a door finally opened, allowing Hisham to return and even begin to search for answers. Okay, but here's where we're going to pivot a little bit. The book is, without a doubt, a masterpiece of personal storytelling. But this question, it forces us to look at it from a completely different angle. It makes us ask, what's lying just beyond the frame of this one family's tragedy?
And that brings us to a critical analysis of the memoir. Now, this perspective doesn't challenge the facts in the book, not at all. Instead, it asks a different question. What important historical context might be missing?
So the central argument here is that by focusing so tightly on the personal, The Return might miss the larger forces that completely reshaped modern Libya. The critique suggests that there's a different and maybe even more devastating story running right alongside Mattar's search. To illustrate its point about this kind of selective history, the critique highlights this comparison. So while the memoir mentions the infamous Lockerbie bombing, an act of Libyan state terror, it apparently omits another aviation tragedy, the 1973 downing of a Libyan airliner by Israeli fighter jets, which killed 108 people. But the main focus of this critical view, the real heart of it, is on a much more recent event. We're talking about the 2011 NATO-led military intervention that helped topple the Gaddafi regime, the very same event that actually made Mattar's return possible in the first place. This analysis argues that the memoir is missing the story of post-Gaddafi Libya, and it's a story of widespread devastation. The critique points to this grim toll: tens of thousands killed, vital infrastructure destroyed, and a new, brutal civil war that plunged the nation right into a humanitarian crisis. And then there's this number, 2 million. Let that sink in for a second. Out of a total population of just over 6 million, the critique states that nearly 2 million Libyans were forced to live outside the country in the years after the intervention. That's a figure that suggests a profound national unraveling. This table really lays out the stark contrast painted by this critical source. Before 2011, it describes Libya as Africa's wealthiest nation per capita, a stable society with free healthcare. After the intervention, it points to a state of total collapse, a shattered economy, a decimated healthcare system, and a nation producing refugees instead of hosting migrant workers. So what we're left with are two very different lenses through which to view Hisham Mattar's work, and really the story of modern Libya itself. So on one hand, you've got the celebrated memoir, an intimate, beautifully written story of a son's love and his search for a lost father. And on the other hand, you have this critical perspective that sees an incomplete picture, a personal truth that, it argues, omits a national catastrophe driven by geopolitical forces. And this really leads us to the crucial point. Is a memoir obligated to document the full sweep of history, including all the complex and devastating geopolitical events, or is its primary duty to the focused, emotional truth of one personal experience? That's the fascinating question that The Return and its critique leaves all of us to consider.